Hi, welcome back. So in the last video, we covered the idea of writing for unpitched percussion staves. In this video, we'll be covering the idea of using right and left hand samples. And by that I mean using the samples that were recorded using the right hand playing, and then samples that were recorded of the left hand playing. So I've got my speedy entry tool selected here. I'm just going to click on the drum set part and let you hear the difference between using a single sample for your playback versus these right and left hand samples. So here's just a little part on the snare drum. So you can hear it actually sounds, pretty realistic, like a human is actually playing those sounds, or like they're being played by a real person. Now, here's the same thing using just the left hand samples. So it wasn't exactly the same music, but I think you get the idea. If you play back one note over and over, you get what they call the machine gun effect, which more or less is named that because it sounds like, a rapid fire series of notes that sound completely identical, which is not the way a person would actually play the music back. So, since the goal of using VDL in the first place is to get more realistic playback, we want to avoid sounding like a machine as much as possible. Anyhow, we're going to go ahead and move forward. I'd like to point out a few things, though, before we get started. One is the ability to drag the score around. If you hold down Alt and Command, or Alt and Control on Windows, the hand grabber tool comes up. So if you click, you can see it's more or less grabbing the score. You're able to move the score around rather than having to go and choose the hand grabber tool. So I'm going to go ahead and move it over a little bit so we can see a little more of the score. And I'll release. Cool. All right, so now let's come up and choose the simple entry tool and let's get started. Another little neat tidbit about the simple entry tool: if you hold down Alt, the note goes away, and essentially you're in the mode of being able to choose where you want to start working. So that's kind of nice. If I release Alt, you can see that I'm able to enter music using the mouse, but I think I'm just going to hold down Alt and choose this first bar, and then we'll get started writing. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple different ways of entering using the right and left hand samples. First, we'll be using the computer keyboard, and much in the same way we did in the last video, you just use the arrow keys and the enter keys to enter the notes. So you can see here it actually tells you, like in the tempo block parts that we entered in the last video, you can see which sound you're choosing. So this will be the close hi-hat with the right hand, and this one, even though it doesn't say it, is the left hand part. I'm just going to enter a series of eighth notes. Nice little alternating hi-hat pattern. So it'll be right, then left, right, arrow down, left. And if I wasn't talking through it, you could obviously enter it much more quickly. So there you go. And the other method would be using the MIDI keyboard. So if I just enter the notes that I want on the MIDI keyboard with the rhythm chosen, even though the text doesn't change, I'm actually getting the different right and left hand sounds. If I use my arrow keys to go back, you can see I've got the hi-hat closed, right, closed, it's going to be the left hand sample, etc., etc. Another neat thing, if I wanted to go a step further, is being able to add intervals below or above. Say I wanted to add a snare drum sound here. If you just hit one of the top row numbers on the keyboard, it'll add the interval above. So if I was to hit a 3, it'll add a crash, but that's not necessarily what I want. If I wanted to enter a snare hit, if I hit Shift, it looks like it's a fifth below. It's right on going to be on that C space. I get the snare cross stick, but if you just tap down a couple times, you'll actually get your snare drum sound. And same thing if I wanted a bass sample over here. It's a ninth below, so I'll hold down Shift to go the interval below, then 9. And let's add another right there. And again, I being an advocate of using a MIDI keyboard, I'm going to enter that same measure that I just entered, only this time I'm going to use the MIDI keyboard and enter it all kind of at the same time. And then let's finish this out. So there you go. That's working with right and left hand samples using the simple entry tool. In the next video, we'll actually hop up to the top of the score and start working with the battery instruments and show you how to start adding things onto the notes. So we'll see you next time.